Just reiterating that suspension that I was talking about before, and I just don't understand, baseball, they're so into now changing their culture so that you can no longer say it's still the same game that it was in 1908. No, it isn't. Not any more than football was when they were playing a single wing. Well, they still have that shotgun snapping. Fine, they still swing bats. That's not, We're just getting to it. It's Keona Kela, who got the 10-game suspension. Meanwhile, Amir Garrett charges the dugout, and he said, oh, no. It was Kela who started it all by throwing inside to the red. You know what? I'm going to repeat the statement. I made it earlier in the hour. That is like, you are on trial for wife beating, let's say. Oh, she made me beat her. She nagged me too much. It doesn't work. No. Unless you're Major League Baseball, and then throwing inside actually means more than running towards the dugout and starting a bench-clearing brawl. It means more than you've been ejected from the ball game, but you go back onto the field to fight the other team's manager. This is insanity. And it's the pitcher that threw inside? You're allowed! He gets 10 games? Please! So it's Kela that gets 10 games. Amir Garrett, who started it by charging the dugout, gets 8. Yasiel Puig gets 3, so he won't play for the Indians for a while. He was traded after the, that was the main thing, you want to talk about peer pressure. I'm not going to play on this team. Perhaps he did not know the deal had been made, but it had been announced that Puig was going to be dealt, and he was still in the ball game about 15 minutes before. Perhaps no one had told him. That's possible. But, yeah. And then he gets into this fight. Well, if I knew I was going to get traded, guys, Anyway, Clint Hurdle is penalized 2 games because he's the manager of the Pirates, and they throw inside. Just ridiculous. Anyway, I got some other suspensions out there from players named Harry, that sort of thing. But I just, it's not, I don't get it. I really don't. Now, I'll tell you what, who didn't get it last night was Drew Lock. By the way, I want to apologize. I had said before that Locke wasn't going to play. He wasn't going to start the game. But he's not going to start opening day. Not playing like he did in the Hall of Fame game. He came on in the second quarter against the Falcons. Did the future Broncos starter. I think we can try to safely say that. Late of the SEC and Missouri. And Drew Lock was only 7 for 11. Well, that's not so bad. But he only threw for 34 yards. That is bad. And he was sacked so much that, well, they figured out every time he came back to pass, Broncos averaged 1.8 yards. Yeah. Overthrew a lot of receivers, did not look sharp, was intent on scrambling somewhat, looked like he could be flushed before. And Drew Lock, remember, he struggled mightily as a freshman at Missouri, too. And then they brought in Josh Heupel, the offense coordinator, and finally Derek Dooley. But here's what Drew Lock had to say about his not-so-great performance. And that was the real story of the Hall of Fame game last night.
I won't give it a 1 to 10. I'll rate it as a learning game. There's definitely things to learn there.
You think? Neither Matt Ryan nor Joe Flacco played. Broncos won a ball game 14-10 on a tipped pass in the end zone in the fourth quarter. So there you go. But yeah, that was the game that didn't count in Atlanta sports. The game that did count, and it actually had a lot of interest around here because the Braves were playing the Reds. And, well, I'll say this. Yesterday, it was Freddie Freeman who put the Braves on the board.
The 2-2 on the way. Hit high and deep out towards left center field. This one hit very hard. Back to the wall. Over the wall. That's a 3-run home run out of Freddie Freeman on a ball that just kept carrying. And a great battle between DeSclafani and Freeman. And finally, opposite field 3-run home run. And it's 3-0 Braves here in the first inning.
And then Adam Duvall got in the act about 5 innings later.
2-1 pitch, swung on, hit high and deep toward left center field. Has Adam Duvall done it again? You bet he has. Adam Duvall with another home run. This was a skyrocket out of here. Unbelievable. His 5th homer, 7th RBI. Already.
There you are. So the Braves, a lot of people now talking about the Braves. I said one of the top 4 teams in baseball, certainly now after their deals. But, you know, it really made this game as it was rained out after 7 innings. So they couldn't try out their new bullpen. Well, they just were saving it for later on in the 4-game slate with the Cincinnati Reds. I'll think of the name of the team. I've only known them all my life. It'll come to me. Don't worry. Okay, so anyway, they will play again. It is Gausman actually on the bump for Atlanta against Wood for Cincinnati. Wood has got no record, so don't ask me who. Anyway, but over here, by the way, I'm looking through some of the things. I wanted to also mention, didn't have much of a chance, but 2 days ago, Daniel Norris actually broke his losing streak. He was 2-8. He had not won in 14 starts. Lost 8 in a row. Finally won. He actually been pitching pretty well the last 2 outings, but nobody is winning with the Tigers bullpen. But he was able to, basically, he was able to find a pitcher that went up against him that was even worse than he was. So, however, the Detroit Tigers will likely not win 30% of their games this year. I said that if they continue on their pace that they were on after the first 14 games, Daniel Norris was 2-0, the Tigers were 8-6. Since then, they were playing approximately .250 baseball. A little bit higher, it was .258. It may have gone up after Wednesday's victory. But circumstances this, I've often said, if you're looking to buy a house, my suggestion, bet on the Tigers. Or, excuse me, bet against the Tigers. Now, there's a big difference. You want to lose all your money, bet on the Tigers. You want to get the house, bet against the Tigers. All right. Tonight might be the way to do it. They got a 0-1 pitcher going up against 13-6 in Texas. I mean, you know, that's easy money right there. Easy money betting against the Tigers. Now, they don't have a closer. Of course, 22 out of 31. You can tell, but Green's with the Braves now. Of course, he didn't have a chance to close out the game. And maybe the Braves ought to just be thankful for small favors that they played a 7-inning game that was ended early due to rain. But you got Green, you got Malecon. There's going to be... The only thing is, did the Braves give up too much? I mean, we're talking about relief pitchers here. Guys who make it on one pitch. And you go through once in the order. And it's kind of believed that, you know, you can usually find those guys. The most overpaid player in baseball is the closer. Moneyball now says, that's not necessary, you know. So you're dealing for a lot of 1-inning pitchers. Were you dealing 6-inning pitchers for that could help you a lot in the future? That's the question. There are going to be no more deals. They have changed the trade deadline. I want to reiterate this because I was mistaken about a week ago thinking, okay, it goes through waivers. There's no more waiver deal, July 31st. However, you can still make deals in the minor leagues. And that's something to be looked at. No player that's been on a major league contract at any point in 2019 may be traded until after the World Series. But the minor leaguers, hey, there you go. And this month, if there's an injury and somebody needs depth, there could be some guys in the minors, and that could be interesting. Might you see a hot prospect get traded? Or, you saw this with the Cubs picking up, when Contreras went down, Wilson Contreras, and they got Maldonado as a rent-a-player. What about a Crash Davis to serve as the backup catcher? So the deals may not necessarily be done. Something to think about. But then again, you might be giving up too much. You might have a regular Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson type deal here. That could still happen. Because if you give up a developing prospect in rookie ball, let's just say, and it's for a veteran catcher who you hope will be able to play 3 games down the stretch, and that could be the difference between a playoff appearance or not, then you might be, it's like the Red Sox when we need that, Larry Anderson, he's a good, solid middle reliever. Jeff Bagwell turned out to be the better player. I think so. You might see that kind of deal coming up here still in August, because you can trade the minor leaguers. So there you go. The other idea is that, and this might actually be very helpful for a level of baseball that I used to announce in, are the independent leagues. This is kind of intriguing. If there is a ball player, especially a former major leaguer, that could, be signed, you can go down there in the independent leagues and all this. Long Island Ducks, for instance. Ever hear about them? They're an independent league team, I believe, the Atlantic League. They have 13, is it Atlantic or Can-Am? One of those, I'm sorry. They got 13 players on their roster with big league experience. I remember when I was the announcer, it was 7 years ago, of the Rio Grande Valley White Wings, and Alberto Reyes was on our staff. He used to be the closer of the Rays. And he was a journeyman minor leaguer and all this, and very well respected by his peers on the team, don't get me wrong. But the whole idea for Reyes was, look, I want to play here. I'm willing to make what was, at the time, an ungodly sum for an independent minor leaguer, $2,000 a month. I don't know if he got it or not, but, $2,000 a month. That was the maximum salary. And he signed, and his hope was, he said, my agent, I hope that I can pick up when the rosters expand. I hope I can have a good enough year, and my slider is still breaking enough that I could go back to the majors for September. Make that big money, be part of a pennant race, get into a few ball games. That's why I'm down here in the 99-degree heat of Harlingen, Texas, in the middle of the summer, making I don't really need this, but that's my hope. Well, the odds of that happening to, certainly not Reyes, he's now, what is he, 49 years old, and he's not pitching anymore, but another type of major leaguer in the independent leagues, that could happen. Also, coming out of retirement, by the way, New York Jets. They signed Le'Veon Bell. They may have an idea that, playoff team possibly challenging the Patriots. If Brady, this is the year he loses it, I don't know. But one guy who they will be strengthened by is Ryan Khalil. You may have heard of his retirement. It has been greatly exaggerated. He used to play with the Carolina Panthers, you'll know. No, he's just signed with the Jets. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? So he'll be working. Sam Darnold, the quarterback there, will be throwing the screens, handing off to Bell. We'll see what that happens. Also, 44-year-old kicker Phil Dawson, after 20 years, he has retired. And, Phil Dawson, who in Cleveland Browns history trailed only Lou Groza in terms of career points. Jerry Bonkowski trails no one, and he will tell us about Watkins Glen when we return on Tri-City Sports Now.